What's going on, DGen Nation? Back with another video. About to hop into a Best Ball Mania 4 draft. This is going to be my 70th draft of the offseason. The draft just filled, so let's see. We're picking out of the 12 spot today. I actually like the 12 spot. See what value falls there at the back-to-back. Typically looking receiver, but I've seen Bijan Robinson slipping a little bit more back towards the end of the first round. So if there's like a Bijan Jonathan Taylor combo available, if there's an Eckler Bijan, I don't mind taking that. Otherwise, I'll most likely go receiver. So let's take a look at the board. See if we get the typical Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase start. So JJ does go first. We get a couple badges in here, a couple red badges. But actually, for the most part, we get 3 red badges, 1 black badge, and myself, I'm a black badge. So we do see the typical Jefferson Chase start. Mostly if the unless the draft gets weird, you're gonna see Jefferson, Chase, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp gonna be in that top 4 range. Then sometimes it's McCaffrey ahead of Kupp and Hill, but for the most part, it's been those 4 up front. Then you see McCaffrey around that 5-6 spot. He's starting to dip a little bit in terms of ADP, not much. Like he never goes out of the first round, but his ADP is 4.2, but he's trending closer to being the 5th pick. You see Kelsey go there 5. CMC at 6. Bijan goes 7. It's actually a relief sometimes when Bijan goes up a little higher. Like he has been slipping, but I have a hard time not clicking him there at the turn. Seems like a good value if he gets closer to the 12, 13 spot, but I'd prefer to go receiver. So fine that he goes there at 7. Eckler goes 8, AJ Brown 9. Looks like this team might be auto picking. If they go CeeDee Lamb, I'm on deck. Let's take a look, see what we like. They go Diggs at 11. That's a steal. So maybe they weren't auto picking the team out of the 10th spot because Diggs has the higher ADP. They probably just put Lamb in the queue. So let's just go Garrett Wilson. And yeah, I just, as much as I like Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't feel like I could ever click him over Devontae Adams. Even with Jameson Williams being out at the beginning of the season, I still, like, if you look at the points from last year, Adams was 70 points ahead of St. Brown. So even if you're expecting some regression from Adams and some positive regression for St. Brown, I still think there's a gap there between the two of them. Let's go back to the board. So after I went Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Jaylen Brown goes 14. Jalen Waddle. I get Jaylen Brown on the brain with all the trade rumors. Jonathan Taylor goes 15. Nick Chubb 16. So I went Wilson first. I mean, I could have gone Adams. Doesn't really matter either way. All you're really doing is kind of bumping up Wilson's ADP slightly, if taking him at the 12 instead of the 13. But you could debate there whether it's, you like St. Brown or Garrett Wilson better if I was debating between the two. Out of the three, I still like Devontae Adams the best. So we see St. Brown go there to the team that took Bijan. So that's a nice value on St. Brown at 18. Usually goes right around the turn there. And he doesn't slip much past 15. So just a quick rundown. Garrett Wilson at 12 and Devontae Adams at 13 for me. Then it went Jalen Waddle, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chris Olave to the team that took McCaffrey. And now the Kelsey owner is on the clock at pick 20. Let's see if he goes with Mahomes or maybe steers in a different direction. So he goes Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's a guy you will see fall into the 30s more often than not. So maybe a bit of a reach there by that. I mean, Henry could return second round value. No one would be shocked, but if you could get somebody else there and then get him in the third at 29 there instead of taking him at 20, I like that much better. Devonta Smith goes 21. Tony Pollard. T. Higgins goes to the Jamar Chase team. So what's Higgins ADP? I feel like is all right. So he's right in that range. See if that team at the 2 spot that took Chase goes Burrow here, if they try and wait for him to get back around to the 47th pick. There usually seems to be someone there willing to take Burrow well before that unstacked. So wow, they go Mahomes. Okay, so they're looking for that week 17 Bengals Chiefs game, but taking Mahomes instead of Burrow. That's interesting. I wonder if Burrow does happen to make it back there to 47, do they still take him there? Do they go Mahomes, Burrow, get the two kind of elite quarterbacks? That's a possibility. That'd be an interesting start. I haven't seen yet. I know people try to get it. I'm sure a lot of people looking for that, but it always seems to be somebody in these drafts that wants to snag Burrow unstacked. And they're making that kind of same bet. They'll grab some Chiefs later if they can't get, Chase and Higgins. They'll grab maybe Mixon and one or two other of the Bengals guys, and then they'll grab a few Chiefs. They'll try and grab Kadarius Toney. So they're doing what the team out of the 2 holes doing, but in the opposite fashion with Burrow. So that 3 straight quarterbacks there, Mahomes, Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, 26, 27, 28. And the team out of the 1 hole went Ramondre, Josh Jacobs at the turn, 24, 25. So Jacobs, Mahomes, Hurts, Josh Allen, Brees Hall, Calvin Ridley, 30, DK Metcalf, 31. This is why I love having the back-to-back. I hate 9, 10, and 11. I'd much prefer to pick 2 in a row. You can see what value slips to you there. Mark Andrews goes 32. Keenan Allen at 33. Just someone I don't have a ton of faith in anymore is Keenan Allen. I've gotten a few shares of him, but I've gotten him a little bit later in the 4th. And almost every single time to pair up with Justin Herbert. I rarely take him without grabbing Herbert. Who knows? He could prove everybody wrong and bounce back and have a healthy season, but I'm not making that bet. All right, so on the clock. I love Christian Watson. So I will take him. Really just going receiver here. And I never feel bad when I'm doing that. Lamar's there, and I do like Lamar, but I feel like Fields is his equivalent now, who you can get a couple rounds later. I'll go Jerry Judy. I'm really I haven't done one of these drafts in a while where I've just piss and yellow for the first 5 or 6 rounds and really just hammering home receivers. And I want to get back to that. I think things might really click for Judy this year with Sean Payton in there. You saw it towards the end of last year. He has the talent. He just probably needs a coach that knows how to utilize his skill set and really gets him locked in and focused. I think he does have the tools to be a number one if he has the right frame of mind and the right coach. And I can't think of a better coach than Sean Payton to kind of bring him around full circle. So I'll make that bet on Judy at 37. I don't have a ton of Judy either, but he's not an easy click in that range. You're taking him. Yeah, I took him at 37 there. His ADP is 41. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's never eclipsed 1,000 yards. He's been banged up. He's just underperformed in general. But you saw the flashes last year, and I'm going to make the bet on that. Let's get back to the board. So I went Christian Watson, Jerry Judy at the turn, 36, 37. 38 was Drake London. 39 was Jameer Gibbs, who I was considering between him and Judy. 40 was Mike Williams. 41 was Brandon Ayuk. 42 Najee Harris. 43 DeAndre Hopkins. So I haven't seen Ayuk go in this range yet. Let's take a look at his ADP. Yeah, so his ADP is 54. He's almost always he's at least going in the fifth, and he sometimes slips to the sixth. I've never seen him go in the fourth. So interesting selection there by the team out of the 8 slot. After Ayuk, Najee Harris, DeAndre Hopkins, Aaron Jones, 44. Another one too. What's Aaron Jones ADP? Aaron Jones has an ADP of 44. That team, that's so annoying. This underdog thing. They have to fix that. God. You try to click on another team to just take a look at their roster for a second, and it just immediately, as soon as the next pick is made, it clicks off of it. It's probably the most annoying feature on any site. Sorry, lost track of what I was saying there. Yeah, the Aaron Jones, they took Henry a little bit before ADP. They take Jones a little bit before ADP, probably just trying to get a combination of players that not a lot of teams have in the tournament. So okay, wow. So I mean, that is a beautiful start by that team out of the 2 hole. They get Chase at 2, Higgins at 23. They take Mahomes there at 26 instead of reaching for Burrow there ahead of ADP. The next pick around, and they still don't go Burrow. They push it even a little further, and they get McLaurin at 47 and then get Burrow at 50. That is an amazing start right there. And not normally recommending going 2 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds. It's sometimes a viable strategy, but when you have Chase and Higgins, it's a no-brainer there to take Burrow at 50 behind ADP. You get Mahomes for the week 17 correlation, and then you get a stud third wide receiver. McLaurin's very steady. He's not going to blow you away, but he's around that 170 to 190 point range every year. So as a number 3, he's phenomenal. So I love that start. That's one of the best starts I've seen. through 5 rounds in any of these drafts. Very good patience too by that team to risk it and try and get Burrow at 50. What is Burrow's ADP? I know it's in the 40s, I'm guessing. I'm on the clock. I'll go back to that in a second. I have almost no Miles Sanders, so I will grab him here as my first running back. He is kind of in that dead zone, which is a little scary. Feel good about my receivers, so okay taking him there, and I will grab I'll grab Madison. I actually like Pierce way better than Madison in a vacuum, honestly, but I have Christian Watson. I could make that bet on the Vikings and the Packers week 17. Could grab Kirk Cousins. I could grab Addison. Possibly. I mean, his ADP is 70, so that would have to be he would have to fall significantly, but still could build in a little Minnesota Green Bay stack. I could grab Jordan Love. Let's go back to the board. Yeah, so I wanted to see. So Burrow's ADP is 45. He got him 5 picks after ADP. So not crazy that he fell, a few picks, 45.5. So he basically fell 4.5 picks past ADP. Not unbelievable, but just the amount of times I've seen him get sniped or someone takes him unstacked in like the third, beginning of the fourth, I see it constantly. So for him to fall back in that scenario where that guy had Chase and Higgins and Mahomes, really is he's setting himself up. He's setting himself up if he can advance for a huge week 17. So that's a team to definitely watch out for. I mean, just comparing that team to my team, it's like apples to oranges. I took 2 running backs in the dead zone right there too. So and I spoke in one of my previous videos about how the dead zone is overrated and how things change from year to year. But those two guys really feel like if there was going to be some dead zone guys this year, Miles Sanders feels like one of them, and Madison feels like one of them. Would not shock me if Madison isn't capable of holding up to the workhorse 17-week grind that it takes to be a number 1 running back. So honestly, I think Jordan Addison would have been a better pick there ahead of ADP than Madison. And I could have tried to grab one of the other backs later, McBride or Ty Chandler. These drafts, like streaming these drafts, it forces you to think, because I'm trying to work through thoughts. I'm trying to kind of analyze other people's teams, and then I'm trying to draft my own team, and it's difficult. I have a lot of respect for the guys that, especially, they do these things live where they're reading the chat and they're drafting their own team and they're talking to somebody else that they have on stream. It's you're multitasking in 4 or 5, 6 different ways. So I have a ton of respect for those guys. I'm doing this pre-recorded and putting them up. So there's that extra element when you're live and there's a lot of pressure on you. I can only imagine. I have a ton of respect for the guys that do that and go live. You never know what's going to be thrown at you. So even this, just kind of trying to break down everybody else's team and give some good analysis and then draft your own team. there's an element of difficulty to it. So I do appreciate those guys. Let's give a quick rundown. I went Madison at 61. After that went Damian Pierce 62, Kyle Pitts, Chris Godwin, Tyler Lockett, Traylon Burks, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, JSN, Jordan Addison goes right at ADP at pick 70. Cam Akers at 71. Back to back was Pickens and Dotson to the team out of the 1 slot, and then the team out of the 2 slot that got the Burrow, Mahomes, Higgins, Chase combination. They do snag Kadarius Toney right there to make a further bet on Kansas City. So they're having a nice draft so far. Waller, Gabe Davis, Elijah Moore, Trevor Lawrence, Rashad White, Michael Thomas, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift goes 82, Dalvin Cook 83. I am on the clock for a back-to-back. So tight end got ugly fast. Should have probably considered Pitts there at my last selection. I do like David Montgomery a lot. I'll take him there right at ADP. Aaron Rodgers is in play for me later with Garrett Wilson. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to grab Watson here. A little bit past ADP, a couple picks, and I will build out. I will grab Rodgers later on if possible. I was going to maybe go in that direction of the Minnesota Green Bay, but I don't know. Hawkinson's gone, Addison's gone, JJ's gone. So I'm really building out. I don't mind having some pieces of that game. You could still have a couple pieces, and if they hit, then you're in business. But it's tough to make a bet on a game when the top 3 or 4 pieces are gone. I could still grab AJ Dillon. The Musgrave is available in the last round if I needed a tight end, so I could still grab some pieces. But I don't like to force that. Once somebody goes that disrupts that, it's okay having a couple of the pieces, having a little bit of the game, but I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna go more towards that New York Cleveland Week 17 matchup. Watson I like him a lot. I think he has a chance to be in that elite tier of quarterbacks, and he was a good value right there. A couple of picks past ADP, so I'm cool with that. Let's go back to the board. So I went David Montgomery 84, Deshaun Watson 85. After that, James Conner, Brandon Cooks, Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton, Tua, Jamison Williams 91. And my next pick is at 108, 109 back to back. So if I'm going to get Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to have to get him there. Most likely. His ADP is 120. So I could grab Rodgers, and I could grab Lazard if he's still there. He might not be. We'll get in a couple of the Jets pieces later. Njoku is an option. Don't have a tight end yet to pair with Watson, so he's an option. Yeah, it's not looking like Lazard's going to be there. Receivers are flying off the board now. Where's Elijah Moore going? I know he's been getting steamed up because of the camp reports. And they got him lining up outside. Supposedly him and Watson have great chemistry. I have a lot of Elijah Moore and I got him a lot of times on the teams where I got Watson. So the fact that he's now going 87 overall, according to ADP, I actually feel good about that. I didn't get him here, but I feel good about that. Just in general, that I got him at a more discounted price with Watson. So and he actually went 77 overall. That's a little rich from my blood, honestly. Yeah, this team out of the 2 spot is having one of the best drafts I've ever seen. At least this offseason. Where is Quentin Johnston's ADP? He goes there to that team at 95, and then they grab Kamara on the way back, who that's right in his range as far as ADP goes. They could have went Sky Moore to pair with Mahomes. They pass on him. But even if Kamara plays 6 or 7 games, he'd still think he has a chance to be an RB2. Take a quick look. Wow. So they got Quentin Johnston. That's unbelievable. 14 picks past ADP. That team is absolutely loaded. So David Njoku went as well. It's rough sledding for picking up some Browns. There's always a couple I can grab later, but yeah, I'll grab Lazard here. Not one of my favorites. He did have a very solid season last year, though. Underrated season. He gets a lot of hate, but I actually I think he's a good player. And I'll grab Rogers here. Sometimes doesn't feel like a great click when there's 3 quarterbacks ahead of him on the board, but I'm fine with it. The ADPs are all bunched together there. Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith. They're all pretty bunched together. And I could have gone Cousins as well. I have Madison, but you're talking about the only other option really to grab is KJ Osborne. So, maybe one of those backup running backs, McBride or Ty Chandler. You're talking about getting one of them towards the end of the draft. Don't feel great about it. So I'm fine pivoting away from that. We got Watson and Rogers for that week 17 game. Maybe it'll be a low scoring game. Maybe it won't be one of the prettiest games as far as offense goes, but we'll see. You never know. The Jets could be much improved. They could be hitting on all cylinders, and the same for the Browns. So as long as the weather's decent, which is always a scary proposition for any of those teams on the East Coast that time of year, but I'm not going to start thinking about weather right now. It is what it is. I've seen games in the snow that were like, the Patriots that year, they had Randy Moss. They put up like 45 points in a blizzard. So there's been plenty of games where it's snowing or cold that the offense still stays hot. Oh, I'm not going to let that get in my head. So after I went Lazard, Aaron Rodgers, we see Pat Fryermuth 110, Tyler Boyd 111, Daniel Jones, Odell Beckham, Jacoby Myers, Shad Penny, Romeo Dobbs, Antonio Gibson, Zay Jones, Damian Harris to the team out of the 2 slot, and the team out of the 1 slot, picking back to back. The first pick, they go Mooney. At 120 and 121, they go Devin Achane. I want to just take another look at this guy's team out of the. I don't understand how that could be a feature on the app. You can't even look at somebody else's team for more than a few seconds without the the next pick comes in and then it just flashes back to your team. Why do I not have the ability to just stay there? Like, it's fucking stupid. Really nice team though. One of the better teams I've seen on here for sure. Not sure how Quentin Johnston slipped that far. Where did Justin Herbert go? So Herbert went 53. How many times did that team pass on Johnston? They went Elijah Moore 77. And then they passed on Johnston again 92 to go Isaiah Pacheco. I don't understand that. I think Pacheco slipped a little past ADP too, but not I don't like that at all. All right, we're on the clock. Don't have a tight end yet. And that's not my favorite spot to be in. It's ugly range for running backs. I have a bunch of all of those guys. I'm gonna go Dalton Schultz. My tight end one. I have Judy. So I could go Dulcich here. Probably most likely going to go 3 tight ends in this build. McKinnon's a tough click. He's pretty dusty. But, I mean, you talk about 170 points out of the running back position last year. I don't expect him to catch 9 touchdowns, but I think he's still going to have a role, I think. And I can always grab Hilaire later. And he's available in the last round most of the time. So if whoever out of those two figures out the number 2 role, as long as Dalvin Cook doesn't go there, which I'm really keeping my fingers crossed he doesn't, I think you're going to get the Chiefs use multiple backs always. And yeah, Pacheco played really well, but he's a 7th round pick. Not that always matters. I mean, you can right place, right time. Maybe he slipped in the draft more than he should have. But I think the Chiefs are always going to use 2 backs, and whoever emerges as that RB2 has tremendous fantasy value. So I'm okay taking McKinnon there. And I'll see if I can grab Clyde in the 18th. Kincaid was higher in ADP. And maybe in hindsight, I might regret that one, but I have plenty of Kincaid. I don't have much Dalton Schultz. So even though he doesn't really correlate with anything on my team, if he's just he's a guy who just eats up targets. At least he did on Dallas. And for a rookie QB, I think he could do the same. He's an improvement on what they had at tight end last year. Big time improvement. So rookie quarterbacks will tend to lean on their tight ends. Especially a guy like him who's not a super speedy guy. He's going to settle in that 10, 15, 20-yard range tops. He's not a downfield threat. So you're hoping he eats up a bunch of targets and he can catch, 5 to 10. If he catches 10, that's a dream scenario, but you're hoping for at least 4 or 5 and maybe 7 or 8 in a really good year. So I went Schultz 132, McKinnon 133. Then after that, we see Kendre Miller, Dalton Kincaid, Greg Dulcich, Tank Bigsby, Jared Goff, Roshan Johnson, Van Jefferson, Jalen Warren, MVS, Rashee Rice, and at the back-to-back, team out of the one spot goes Cole Kmet with their first pick, Russell Wilson with their second. So I'm just going to scroll back up for a second. This team at the 2-hole, I've said it already, but they're just a beautifully executed draft. Being able to get Mahomes and Burrow, get 3 stud receivers with McLaurin as your number 3. Your Cam Akers with some running back upside on a team that you're going 0 RB. You know, he's got a lot of good reports. Finished last year strong. So then you get Tony, continue the correlation with Mahomes, another possible guy who could spike in week 17. You get Quentin Johnston well after ADP, almost 20 picks after ADP. Kamara, Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, all guys, if you're going 0 RB, are great upside plays. Rashee Rice, the rookie, further correlates with Mahomes and Tyler Higbee with their last pick. So that's a team that's very well structured for sure. The only area that they're lacking, obviously, is tight end, which is where my team's lacking as well. And I actually don't love these running backs either. It's a weird team. This is not one of my favorite teams. I am not afraid to go out on a limb and say that. So Matt Stafford goes right there. See Tyquan ADP is well ahead of it where it was for the last couple months. He's been getting steamed up. I think I have like 25% Tyquan, so I will pass on him here. So I don't need to go with Jordan Love, so I'm gonna go Singletary. Like Marvin Mims a lot, but Jerome Ford is here as well. And I have almost no Jerome Ford. I never really get to take him. Correlates with Watson and the Jets, the week 17 matchup. So I will go Jerome Ford right there. This could be a 7 running back team because I don't love the running backs I have. I think Miles Sanders. I think that might be my first or at most my second share of Sanders. I think he should be going more in the 70s, early 80s. I think that's a better range for him. They did give him the money, but there's something about him. The Eagles offensive line was so good. And the Panthers do have a decent O-line, as you saw last year. Foreman running behind that line, and Chuba Hubbard actually played well in stretches. They do have a pretty good offensive line, but you're talking about a rookie quarterback coming in and some older receivers. How well does that offense move the ball? Certainly not going to move the ball the way the Eagles did, and have the amount of goal line opportunities that Sanders had last year on the Eagles. So he worries me. So does Madison. If I could do that over, I probably would have pivoted there to something different. I'll look back at that in a second to see what was available. So after I went Singletary 156, Jerome Ford 157, we see Rashid Shaheed 158, Gerald Everett, Tyler Algier, Jordan Love, Sam Laporta, Marvin Mims, Jawan Johnson, Tyquan Thornton, Raheem Mostert 166. So I'll take a look at that range right there at the back-to-back. I was debating between Pierce and Madison. I was going to try and make a bet on Minnesota, Green Bay. Should have probably taken into consideration that, Aaron Jones was gone. and that Jordan Addison wasn't going to make it back to me unless I took him there. So probably would have went Pierce over Madison. Pierce over either of those guys, basically. I like Pierce better. And then just the way my tight end situation turned out, Kyle Pitts would have been a much better selection there than Madison. So in hindsight, I would have definitely done that one over. See how it finishes out here, though. Just going to do a quick rundown of my team. Sean Watson, Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, running backs Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison, David Montgomery, Jared McKinnon, Devin Singletary, Jerome Ford at running back, wide receiver Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy, Alan Lazard, tight end Dalton Schultz. So coming around here again, I'd like to get Conklin. He's an underrated guy. I think he should improve with Rodgers. Should have more touchdown and red zone opportunities. I said I wanted to get Hilaire, so I'll throw him in the queue for a little bit later. I'm good at quarterback. Let's look at the board. Oh, Conklin goes, of course. Gainwell, 177. I'm 2 picks away. Brock Purdy goes 179. I'm on the clock. I think Dawson Knox is a definite value here at this spot. I've been scooping him up in this range a lot. I don't need to worry about Hilaire. I'll go Hardman here. He may have been there on my swing back around, but he may not have. So he gives me a little further correlation with Rodgers and the Browns week 17 matchup. Be nice if I could have got some of Watson's pass catchers, though. I mean, right now it's Watson in the backup running back. It's like I don't feel too great about that either. It used to be that Elijah Moore he was always going after Watson, so that's what kind of threw me off a little bit. I didn't even fully realize like he had gone at 77. So, and where did DPJ go? Yeah, so he might have been someone I should have looked at as well. Some might say this draft right here is a full-blown disaster. You might say that. This has got to be one of the bottom 3 teams I've ever drafted. Not a fan. Not only do I hate this team, I'm looking at one of the best teams I've seen drafted this entire offseason out of the 2 spot. So I was talking up the 12 spot, but maybe it's not as fancy as I made it out to be. I'm happy I went receiver early. I do think I have some of the best receivers out of any of these teams. I'll have to do a quick after the last pick is made. Just do a quick glance at everybody's team. See aside from the team at the 2 spot who have already talked up a lot, see if there's any other good teams. Because I know there was some value that fell, especially Quentin Johnston. That was a big one. So right now I'm at a 2.662. Actually, as much as I waited at tight end, I do think Schultz and Knox are very good late round options. Particularly Knox, his ADP is crazy at 180. He should be much closer with Kincaid, especially with his touchdown upside. I don't think him and Kincaid do many of the same things. The only worry is that he becomes more of a run blocker, and they kind of let Kincaid run free, especially if they're both on the field at the same time. It's not as likely that he's going to be going out for as many routes if both of them are sharing the field. So I think he's still live for 5 to, I think he scored 9 touchdowns a couple years ago. I think he's still live for that type of outcome. It's in his range of outcomes for sure. I'm at 6 receivers, and I feel good about I feel great about my receivers. It's the strongest part of my team. Hardman, who knows? Potential spike week guy with the speed, but normally I would go. Normally I would go Pierre Strong here. I think he's an absolute steal at 207 ADP in the last round. Cedric Tillman's an option for me too. If I want to stick at the 2 tight ends, I feel like I should go 3, but they do have different bye weeks. So I'll make the first selection with Hilaire. Some good camp reports. He's going to be desperate for a contract this year, just for somebody to see that he still has some value. So I think he actually does come out and play well. And if McKinnon's a bust, then I feel like he can step into that role. And I'll go Cedric Tillman. Maybe he beats out DPJ. Maybe there's an injury. So I actually would have one of Watson's pass catchers as opposed to just Jerome Ford. So it's really between Tillman there and a 3rd tight end. So if you look at this board, I have a ton of Hunter Henry. Don't like Jelani Woods. So I don't have much likely either, but yeah, I'm fine with that. This group of tight ends, there might be a diamond in the rough there, but I'd rather take the chance on the high upside rookie receiver. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on him because he was hurt, but 2 years ago at Tennessee, he was great. He was actually better than Hyatt in terms of his numbers. And a lot of people just said to the eye test that he was a better player overall than Hyatt. So let's take a look at the board, see how these last few rounds played out. So I went Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 204, Cedric Tillman, 205, Marvin Jones, 206, Hunter Renfrow, 207. I've been taking so much Renfrow, and I think maybe once I've gotten him in the last round. So he's after ADP there. I think as a last round pick, that's an absolute steal. Tim Patrick, 208, Pierre Strong, 209. I've had some drafts where I felt I did okay, and my team turned out all right. I got sniped a bunch of times, and wasn't my ideal draft, but felt okay about it. I had somewhere I feel like I got every pick I wanted, and the team fell exactly the way I wanted it to. And I have a two or three teams where I just hate the team. I just look at it on paper and I'm like, this was just me lighting $25 on fire. And this feels like one of those teams. Absolutely feels like one of those teams. After Pierre Strong, 209, Terrence Marshall, 210, Samir White, Chase Claypool, Isaiah Likely. See what this team does. Out of the 2 slot, they don't have to do much. These last few rounds feel like a just a bonus. They may have just put it on auto pick for these last couple. They go Jake Ferguson, and that'll do it. Never really shows me the last pick for whatever reason. So I finished it up with a 2-7-7-2. I get Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Running back, we got Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison, David Montgomery, Jerick McKinnon, Devin Singletary, Jerome Ford, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So a rare 7 running back build for me. Not my typical structure. At wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy, Alan Lazard, McCole Hardman, Cedric Tillman. And at tight end, Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox. And I'm just going to do a quick peek at some of the other teams here. Yeah, so the team I've been talking about, just one final rundown of their roster out of the 2 slot. So they went with a 2-5-8-3 build. Quarterback Mahomes, Burrow. Running backs Akers, Kamara, Damian Harris, Elijah Mitchell, Ezekiel Elliott. So they pretty much took their running backs at ADP. Their first running back off the board was Akers, so they were going with a 0 RB start. That's a good range if you're gonna go 0 RB, like 6, 7, 8. You kind of a little bit past that quote unquote dead zone. Akers was going in the 4th last year, so you get him in the 7th. You saw him have a strong finish to the season, so that could be his thinking. If Kamara avoids suspension, that's a smash at 100. 98 overall, ADP 100. Harris going into a good situation with the Bills, unless they sign somebody else, which doesn't seem likely at this point. And Elijah Mitchell has huge potential if anything were to happen to CMC in the San Francisco running game. Is always going to be a fantasy viable option. So Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Kadarius Toney, Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston, you see there, ADP 81. He went at 95. So 14 picks past ADP. He gets Rashee Rice and Toney to pair with Mahomes. So he's a big bet there on the Week 17 matchup, Cincinnati KC. Jalen Hyatt, Curtis Samuel to round out his receivers, and a tight end, Higbee, Gesicki, Ferguson. So the tight end, group is a little ugly. I mean, Higbee is a spike week guy. He did it for me last year. Had a spike week at the perfect time. They gave a 2-touchdown, 90-yard game, something like that. He had a really nice game. Gesicki goes to a little bit more friendly of an offense for him personally. He's not going to have to run block the way he did on Miami last year. And Ferguson, who knows? I mean, Schultz is gone, so there's definitely opportunity there. Like this team, the only weak spot is at tight end, but that could not matter with the value that he got with Burrow, with Johnston, and that'll wrap it up for today. Not my best draft, but we get some more to come. looking at about 30 more BBM drafts to get my exposure to around 100. So hopefully better days ahead. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you like the episode today, you can leave me a like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, what I could do better, what I can improve upon. All feedback is welcome. So today's video, DJ Nation, out.